Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine.
So, what are the attributes of a good comedian?
So the attribute of a good comedian, number one, just like a good joke, a good comedian, number one, you have to be funny. You have to be naturally funny, because this is one thing that they don't learn, in school. You can, yes, I even have some books on comedy, but you can use all those books and all those stuff to brush up, to sharpen up your skill. But if you know the body, no worry yourself. So a good comedian is somebody that he knows that he's funny, he has a funny bone in him. And then two, he's able to pick out, because sometimes some people are funny, but they are not patient enough to always observe around them, because jokes fly every minute, so you have to be sensitive to catch them. And then two, you're able to read your audience, you're able to read your room. Anywhere you go to, you're able to know what can go or what cannot go. Yeah. And most importantly, a comedian that stays fresh. Unlike music, I mean, since 2003 till today, Star Plus has still been singing Olufumi, and everybody is happy. They have still been singing since 2006. They have still been singing, everybody move your body now, forget about the new day, and everybody is happy. But as a comedian, if you have a fantastic joke in 2020, by 2021, that joke might be funny again, because then they'll be like, you have to be like, you see, they crack this thing till now, And then the bad part is some jokes are seasonal. There are some jokes that maybe happened during, let's say, during the lockdown or during the outbreak of COVID, namely in that time, that if you cracked it that time, people could relate, because now so they do us right now. But right now we are not in lockdown or anything. Or just let's say we're in Christmas. We have some jokes on Christmas. By February, you can't start to crack that, they bring rice and chicken for Christmas. Wow, Christmas of 2 months, So the ability to always stay fresh, the ability to remain unpredictable. Because when you're a comedian that they say, MC Peter is coming, Peter won't come talk again now. They won't talk about how Hausa and Yoruba and Igbo man drink water. I beg. So once you're predictable as a comedian, you're a problem.
All right. So what's your own personal definition of comedy?
Personal definition of comedy. I would say, actually, nobody has actually asked me this question before, so I'll think through it as I answer. So, comedy is the art of viewing the world from a funny lens or from a funny perspective. Yeah, I think comedy arts, keyword art, ART, is the art, maybe the craft, maybe the science of viewing the world from a funny perspective or from a funny lens. Because basically, when we crack jokes, once in a while we go abstract. To say, crocodile fall on top chimpanzee head, chimpanzee can't hold lion waist, elephant horn for me. But usually when we crack jokes about things. That's what makes comedy funny, actually. When we say things that, as they're saying it, it hits your mind and you're like, oh, it's true. For example, like this example, when I use that, man no go fit call out sexual product being buy for internet. You probably have not thought of it that way. But once I begin to mention it, the fact that in your mind you're relating to that, it's true. Even myself, if na me there, I don't go pick you, and then you start to laugh. So it's just basically viewing the world from a different lens.
Interesting. So what stands Dandy Humorous out as a comedian? What sets you apart from the other comedians?
What stands me out? I define my style of comedy as urban and cerebral. So I think that the intellectual substance of my materials stands me out. People, when I crack certain jokes, or when I crack to say, "Oh, this guy is smart. This guy is brilliant. This guy, they really think something. They really think things through." You understand? So I think for me, the urban, and then he has an urban appeal, corporate appeal, but corporate, but can also be very funky as well. So that's why I call it urban. So the fact that it's urban like that, and then it has a great depth of intellectuality, I think that makes me stand out.
Now, what is the commonest mistake that any comedian can make?
Commonest mistake any comedian can make, I think, is the inability to read wherever it is you're going to, and know what is good for them, or not have what is good for them. So the inability, or inability to judge accurately your audience, is a very big mistake. Because once you go, and let's say you're in church, and then as you go to a church audience, even though some of the people who did the church now rugged men and women like you, but as you enter the church, you just say, "All these guests wey just they wear mini skirt, they shake nyash," you've lost you've lost your audience. But there are places you will go to, and as you just make that small sentence, brah, everybody's on the floor. So I think the inability to read where you are, that's one of the biggest mistakes, and it happens to the best of us. Sometimes you have a whole routine planned, and as you step on stage, sometimes you just step on stage, and as you just see the people, or you just see the setting, or you just see sometimes even the seating arrangement, you just know that, this thing is not going to work. So you start reworking everything in your head from what you planned. And sometimes you get to the stage, maybe na that time they begin share food, na that time, so you know that, okay, there's no time to build up. You need to hit them hard immediately, bow. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 that you have planned to build up, cut it away, and then try to go straight into, that kind of, the mental calculation is heavy. So a comedian who doesn't, if I would just say, the comedian who doesn't have accurate mental calculation will enter serious problem.
Okay. Now, what is the first thing that you, as a person and as a comedian, that you normally do when you're contracted for a show or for a performance?
The first thing I normally do when I'm contracted for the show is to send my account details. So that I will know that. But one of the things I do personally is I start to prepare for the show. If you call me today, it's just that now, because of maybe how well versed we are, experience wise, and all those things. If you call me for a wedding or some kind of things, I go just say no, I go just go, because I know that one way or the other will wing it. But normal, if you call me for an event, if you call me today, 24th, and you say, okay, the event is in May 1st next year, and you give me a certain brief. I'm online. You give me a certain brief of the event, I can now say, okay, I think in this event, sorry. I can now say, okay, I'm going to say this and say that. I have a big the notepad folder in my phone, and I will just put there move your head, and I'll just put there May 1st, 2022, Yes Magazine show. And maybe there's a joke that enters my head that I know, say, for that Azuh, their audience, if I tell them how those days would they go and come your office for Opa, it go funny. So I can write it down. And then as we draw close to the event, I keep developing my routine. I keep developing my routine um, for that. So I prepare ahead. I always prepare ahead mentally.
Okay.